Hello everyone, we are south of Old Ebonheart on a lovely night in Rule. And there's a Nord staying at the inn in Rule who suspects he's being cheated by the townsfolk. He wants me to find out who the swindling dark elves are. Well, from experience, all of them? Including me?
Oh, it's you. Can I help you?
Okay.
Is there something I can do for you?
Swindling dark elves. Don't ask me. I didn't even talk to the Nord. Are you sure? Just the usual common folk slandering honest merchants. Hans and I made a deal. He didn't have the coin, but I had the wares he wanted. So he threw in some trinkets to balance the trade. I could maybe give one of the items back to ease his mind, but don't be mistaken, I'm only doing this because of you. Hans' snow trekker boots has been added to your inventory. The temple grounds. You can't make me leave, Sarah. I did nothing wrong.
It's never easy, is it?
You and your customers are distracting the worshippers. If I were you, I wouldn't set up shop here. Alright, I'll leave. Well, that's nice. Everybody's so helpful now.
What can I do for you?
Temple grounds. Could you make the peddler leave? I've convinced him to close his shop. You talked to him and he agreed to stop peddling? What an interesting turn of events. Here's your pay for a job well done. Okay, no duties here, or none from her.
May you find me worthy of your attention.
Okay.
Is there something you need?
Ah, you bring good fortune with you. Welcome.
Find anything? Andros Dovin hasn't given you a fair deal, and I got your item back. Okay. Is there more? Oh, apparently, yes, it's Dark Elves,
Yes?
Cool. Alright, who else? Okay, I don't see
What
anyone
is this
else.
about?
Wow, what? You've been swindled by, like, everybody in the world? What? Oh, this is ridiculous. Alright, I'm gonna let that loop around. That's too much for me right now. Okay. Fighters Guild, Dalvini Land Crab. Urvas Dalvini is a landowner who refuses to sell to House Lalu. Jabaska has ordered me to ensure that Urvas Dalvini's land is sold by any means I see fit. Dalvini Shack is just southeast of Galmok. What? Ew. I'm not doing that. Yeah, the Fighters Guild just, is gross out here. I mean, really gross. Mages Guild extermination at Strand. TCR has tasked me with eradicating a group of undead at Strand. Strand is an ancient fort, a short walk northeast of the town of Arcade. Suggests I ask the locals for directions. Okay. Hello? Local? Okay, that's Strand, so okay, I can go out here and fly.
From where do you hail?
It's a beautiful night. It's a beautiful night. Looking for something fun to do. Hey baby, I think I'm gonna shoot at you. Bye. I'm just helping you with my restoration. Remen Legion short sword. Yeah, they didn't go very far for the Empire, did they? Just changed from Roman to Remen. I want to remove these bodies so I can clean up the markers. I think I'm gonna have to go around. So yeah, her attitude is very much changing in terms of these quests that are a guy says to kill a guy. Delivering a note that got a slave killed has deeply soured her on a lot of the fetch and carry. This one is much clearer. Go clear out undead. Okay, it's very rare that the undead actually belong here. Storing some strength and endurance that got lost along the way.
If I can be of any assistance, I'll be happy to help.
What did I do to deserve this honor?
Are the undead Strand eradicated? They're all dead? Fully, I mean? Good. I'm sure the people of Arcad will be more than grateful to the guild. Take this cuirass. It's something else I wore in my Legion days. Speak to me when you're prepared for further duties. Silver cuirass of the Warlock. I need you to retrieve the Staff of Banishing Light. It's an imported Dunmer relic. I believe that if I study it, I'll be able to create a powerful spell. It's currently in the possession of the enchanter Aryadora. You can find her in the shop at the Bazaar of the Abyssian. I need you to go there and ask her to donate it to her cause. I'd ask her myself, but she doesn't respect me or the guild. I'm hoping you'll be successful where I haven't. I am officially the Evoker. Okay. Murder at the crossroads. Aran Kimoy's corpse appears to have one fatal stab wound in the chest. There seems to be burn marks around the victim's wound. So I'm going, yeah, I'm investigating the murder. Okay. Okay, I see a bloody note. Notes are good.
What is this about, Dunmer?
So where are you from?
Oh, this is
What's your story?
in the middle of yeah.
May the wind be on your back.
This is a little strange. I don't have the context for this, so in an investigation. All right, let's talk to the innkeeper.
What's your story?
What is this about, Dunmer?
Thief of the bottle of wine. Good day, I'm Fark, publican of the Gosha Inn. We rent beds. I have a limited selection of goods for barter. You wouldn't have happened to see a thief with a bottle of wine on the way here, would you? How would I know which one's a thief? Yes, a few days ago a man came into the inn and asked for a bottle of Surly Brothers wine, and I gave it to him. He ran off into the night. I reported this to the guards, but so far they've yet to find him. I think he must be that wanted criminal, Jairus Tracius. I'll keep an eye out. You will? Thank you. I believe he went to the west along the Gold Road. It was so dark. Can't be sure. Latest rumors. We had an unlikely pair of pilgrims stay with us recently. They were well behaved and paid their tab, but I can't say that I'm sad they've moved on. I think they were headed toward Bryn Cross on the Gold Road.
Glory and honor, emperor and empire.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, I jumped here instead of flying. That was not great, but alright, I'm gonna travel up the road. This is also a little bit of a throwback to, as I said, um, Oblivion. You do a Mages Guild quest along Bryn Cross. Alright, I'm just going to make up for not having actually flown here. I'm going to run the way back and see if I can catch these guys on the road. So my way of playing it's organized, but it certainly doesn't always clear up these quests in a narrative form. So I've unfortunately forgotten a lot of the murder mystery. I know there's legionnaires and a body, but some of these mysteries are procedural and not particularly engaging, I would say. If you had something, they were murdered with a guava spoon. A what? We don't even have guava in this world. That's what makes it so unusual. But something, like, I remember the guy turned into a pig in the middle of the woods. That's much more interesting. Noises around here. I can't tell if something's trying to kill me or that's just ambient bird. I don't like that sound. Whatever you are, I do not like the sound. These little chalk formations in the middle of nowhere with just like lumps on top. This is not a particularly pretty spot, I would say. That doesn't even look like things you would find in the wild, even the magical wild. Pretty sky, though. Shrine of Saint Horatia. Would you like to make a donation and receive a blessing? Sure, Barrister's Tongue. Ooh, hopefully that has buffed my personality. Or mercantile. Okay, we're at Brenna's Cross. I didn't really see anybody along the way. Except for weird toupee rocks. Alright, what's in here? Is it alcohol
Glory and
or
honor,
is
Emperor
it an
and
actual
Empire.
quest? Murder at the Crossroads.
Greetings to you.
Well, that wasn't helpful. Yeah, let's see if I can better track down that, that's very strange.
Glory
Just
and
sent me
honor,
in one door and
Emperor
out the
and
other.
Empire.
Aha! There are two parts to it.
Welcome, Dunmer. Let's set aside our differences and talk, shall we?
Here to report your progress with the Arain Kimoy case. I went to the crime scene. I noticed the victim's skin was badly burnt around the fatal wound. Yes, I've seen that as well. Aran's wound is very strange. Are you done interrogating the suspects yet? Oh man. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm not as into this. Try to someone's in the wine cellar.
Glory and honor, Emperor and Empire.
Fortunately, this is not a particularly interesting murder mystery. Oh, so now I'm going to steal wine. Olive oil. Okay. All right. I don't. All right. Let me see if anybody at the manor can tell me anything. You know, it's sending me all over the world, and um, I'm not seeing markers. They're not really talking to me. It's not following up. I didn't find the note at the inn. I'm not invested in the murder of the Crossroads thing. This is not really helping me. Oh, okay. I should speak to here's the directions. Precious is the town smith. Medina lives in her manor. Okay, so I will try to speak to these people, but as you can see, they're not really giving me much. I'll see if that changes if I ask the right questions.
Do you have anything to barter?
Around Kimoy, Aran tried to purchase the store from me on multiple occasions, but I didn't want to sell. Since then, my suppliers and such have refused to deliver to me. I have no doubt this was Aran's doing. The man was well connected and such. I ended up working out an arrangement with new suppliers in Kvatch, so no lasting harm was done. Where were you on the night of the murder? I was working here until late last night. Then I went to sleep. Feel free to ask Reese, my apprentice. She was here as well. Or you did it together.
Citizen.
He visited the store a couple of times. I overheard him speaking with Brescius once. He wanted to purchase the store, but Brescius wouldn't sell. Aran Kimoy was furious and stormed out of here. Where were you the night of the murder? I worked late, slept in the shop on a bedroll right here. I don't live in Brina Cross, and I prefer to sleep here rather than walk home late at night. Brescius didn't leave the shop either. I like the cuirass on the wall. It's a nice display. Good job, guys. I like you.
Talk is free. What do you want?
Alright, so the rest is Medina at her orchard, which is to the southwest from here.
You wish
Glory
to
and
speak.
honor, emperor and empire.
So, alas, I know that things like this require me recalling details about what I've seen and what I've learned. I'm no good at that. Shoot things in the head? I'm okay at that. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm enthusiastic. So I have to play to my strengths. Some quests, some games, some directives. Just not going to be good at. And in these games, the sort of solve the mystery things aren't as engaging. So I would say the mystery that they had in Morrowind of the Ash statue is engaging. It actually, I mean, it has a real reason to be there. You want to track down the suspect and find out. This, maybe not so much. You don't really know these guys. It's a random murder. It doesn't have many consequences, and it's mostly just clicking on options. Not as engaging. Oh my god, the horses in this game are so weird. Oh baby, you poor thing. We're being so weird now. Okay. That is something my son said when he was like 3, and we still say it. Okay, you're being so weird now.
Speak freely, friend.
Welcome to the Talgiana Orchard. What are you doing in my manor? Were you looking for me? Arankimoy. Can't say I was surprised to hear he was killed. A crook like him probably worked with all sorts of cutthroats. Do you know who killed him? Ludo sent you, didn't he? He'll need all the help he can get. The man is useless. Arankimoy was a criminal who lived in Britacross for years, right under Nerilius's nose. Where were you on the night of the murder? I was in Britacross, actually. Salonia Halgern held a social event at her manor. I stayed the night there. Ask her if you don't believe me. I had hoped to see Kimoy rot in a jail cell, but I would never resort to murder. Okay, this is, not all that inspiring. Alright, let's see if I can find the bloody note. I am grateful for the further tracking. I've got a little bit more context here. Let's see if we can find it. I see a marker now. Ooh, I don't like the music here, like, at all. Stop. Stuck. Okay. Okay. Stop doing that. My map is bugging out a little bit. Okay. Can't get it to it. Oh, did I unpin it at some point? Yeah, I did. That's why. Yep. Okay, there was a marker for a note that was
Speak up.
here-ish. Okay, those are all bounty notices. I'm not
Speak
really
freely,
all that
friend.
interested in the
You've got
just
my ear,
run
let's
out
hear it.
and okay. Let me see if I can unlock this door. See if there's anything in here. Paper, rolled paper. Uh, I really don't know. I'm gonna go upstairs, possibly break
All
into a
right, go
room.
ahead.
But any of these
May the
that you're
wind
supposed
be
to be
on your
supporting the
back.
law, but it makes you break into places,
Yes,
I don't
Dunmer?
really understand. Ain't nobody got time for this.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
Get more than you
I
bargained
okay.
for from me.
All right. I'm just not as invested in this as they would like me to be. It's not, there are not very engaging people in a not very engaging place, and I am a not very engaging detective. Okay. I'm gonna head back, talk to them, and see what's what, but not my favorite quest.
Greetings to you. A pleasure to meet you.
I've questioned all three suspects. They all have a solid alibi. Now on to the topic of Aran's wound. Yes, a clean, deep stab in the heart and charred flesh around the wound. Enchanted weapon. If I were to guess, maybe you could go back to the smith, Precious Talacians. If anyone knows who owns such a weapon in Brina's Cross, it could be him. bronze
seem
wound.
like very good
Stab
company.
wound surrounded by burnt skin. Yes, that's typically what would happen if you stabbed someone with a short blade enchanted with a fire spell. Do you know anyone in Brina Cross who owns such a weapon? If they do, they don't come to me for repairs. However, I did work on a sword like that shortly after Iran Kimoy's murder, an Argonian adventurer. Her blade was in bad shape. She said she was assaulted on her way here and barely made it out alive. Her weapon nearly broken. I told her the repairs would take time. She got upset, but what could I do? I think I saw her cross the street to the tavern on her way out of here. Okay, so not the inn we've been to, the inn in town.
Speak freely, friend.
Can you ask your question quickly?
I'm listening.
Greetings. It's not often I find such good company. Please speak, Dumner.
Argonian adventure. All right. Yes, someone approached me a few days before around Kimoy's murder. She had questions about the manor. I thought she was a thief. One thing led to another, and I ended up selling a key I had to her. Oh, come on. Key to the manor. Yes, I had a few of those, and, well, one of them slipped my mind when I had to give them back to my old boss. I didn't mind the right wad getting robbed and me getting a profit out of it. I'm afraid the robbery went wrong. I never intended for anyone to get hurt. Where is she now? I'm not sure. I think she was making her way to Kvatch. She mentioned she was meeting a friend at the Gosha Inn and asked me for directions. It's on the Gold Road, right on the border between the kingdoms of Anvil and Kvatch. Oh, this is the most boring murder ever.
May the wind be on your back.
Is that garlic? Strange castanets? Weird maracas? Garlic doesn't grow like... Okay. I have no idea what that's supposed to be. Argonian adventure. Yes, she's staying upstairs. She told me that someone would come by asking for her, but I thought her visitor already came and left. She didn't pay for last night, now that you mention it. Her room's upstairs on the right. I'll unlock the door for you.
I'm listening.
Okay. Oop. Dead Argonian. Bloody note. Once you've eliminated your target in Brina Cross, meet with our employer at the Gosha Inn to receive your payment. Okay. Take the blade as evidence. Kimoy Manor Key as evidence. Okay.
What's your story?
This is a wondrous
What?
encounter.
She's dead?
Welcome.
Oh dear, this will be bad for business. Alright, they're not really telling me more. Because she was supposed to meet here. Who was she meeting? Let's see if he can tell me more about employer. Nope. Okay. So the
Greetings to
assassin
you.
got killed in a room
A
in the
pleasure
Gosha
to meet
Inn? What
you.
did you find? Here's her sword. Alright, good work. Looks like I'll have to put the investigation on hold for a while. I might manage to get the case off of my hands now. There's nothing more you can do. Here's your pay. Have you talked to Thelius Halgren about this already? I think the Marshal wanted to speak to you. As Marshal of the Crossroads, he's the top-ranking noble here in Brina Cross. I answer to him, and he answers to the Queen in Anvil. That's it? Ugh. We're not even going to find out who the employer is? Alright. I don't know if I've already talked to the guy. I don't have any directions, so I'm just going to move on. Improbable cause. Unsolio, a sea elf. Okay, that's the sea elf. Oh, wow. I need to go back and talk to them? Yeah, okay. I didn't finish it. Oh. Yeah, that's definitely the wrong one. Okay, I am so very confused. Alright. I want to go speak to the guy. Barracks. Tower. Yeah, let's try this again. He's in a cell, right? Okay. Let's look for a cell. Oh, this is so frustrating.
Serve the Emperor and the Emperor's law. Welcome. If you wish to talk, it is really no trouble at all.
That's not the quest. That's next. But that's... Alright. I want to actually talk to the guy. I don't know how to get to him. Okay. Green marker. Oh. Alright. There's a green marker on my map, but it doesn't show up when I'm on the level that he is on. So that is an issue.
Sir, I'm an officer of the Imperial Law. Move along.
No, that wasn't it. I can't even get to this guy. How did I get to this guy in the first place? Okay. All the purple markers lead to places I don't want to go. Let's see. No. These are all locked. Now, before I was able to talk to him through an open door, right? Okay, this whole place makes me nuts. There we go. Okay. It's in the basement. Tank the lean.
Serve the Emperor and the Emperor's law.
Its scent is unfamiliar.
Any all COs? You do. None of you. They don't look. Okay. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to talk to. I found the cells. I don't know where he is. Okay, yeah. They just said
Looking for new
they
arms or
agreed to let
armor?
him go.
My workmanship is the best in town.
I don't know what to do with that, so I'm going to hide that. Down with the ship. I met Captain Mondrillion in his room in Fort Teledrac, so I remember this. This is about, recovering the remains of the Red Tempest. So... Alright. So it is north of here. No, some of these quests have the element of story, and some of them do not. A guy killed a guy because he didn't like a guy is not an interesting story. You can't just say murder and then expect the horror of murder in general to keep someone's attention. In a story, you have to make something interesting. It's a shame, but it is very true. Generic suffering is boring. Generic happiness is boring. It's just true. Story means your brain is looking for something new. The essence of story is conflict, and novelty is important. So, my philosophy is think exciting thoughts, live an incredibly boring life. No drama. Nothing that would make a great story. I learned that from migraines. You can't actually write a story about migraines. Migraines are one of the most boring things in the world. You hold still and you try not to scream. That's like it. That's the story. And writing a story about someone who has migraines every day is tragedy, but it's incredibly boring. Oh, wow. That looks like a dolphin. That's cool. Are you a dolphin or a shark? You swim like a dolphin. But you're probably a shark, because you got that fin thing going for you. It's one more of those weird underwater things that they call lamias. I tried to lockpick it. Ah, dear. Yeah, and I looked it up. Lamias have nothing to do with being underwater. This place makes me afraid to turn around. Yikes. Are they nailed there? Or are they just swimming up? I guess if you were nailed there, you'd still try to swim up if you were still alive. Oh no, they can open doors. Okay. All right. Oh, big ol' spear. Spear of the Fox's Footfall. Yikes. Okay. The pillow is just, the bed is perfect. Pillow's still there, but there's barnacles on everything. Okay. Could I take a nap, technically? You can only rest on solid ground. All right. I admit it was a very bad idea, but I was curious. That kind of describes all of gaming, isn't it? It was a very bad idea, but I was curious. She didn't deserve to die like
An
that,
honor, to
choking
be
on her own
sure.
blood. TEM Red Tempest should never have been her tomb. I found her remains. You really did? Oh my, you don't know what this means to me, Nandine. Now my friend will have a proper burial among her kin. I'll see to it immediately. Here, take my service sword. It's the least I can do, and I won't be needing it after this anyway. I'm leaving the Navy. Perhaps a life of charity and repentance can make up for a terrible moment of cowardice. I don't think that's cowardice. I think things might be different if in the world if we all had a recall spell. No, don't go down with the ship. Nobody go down with the ship. Everybody come home safe. All right, back to a main quest point. Spymaster sent me to find a 6th house base near Narmok. So I'll be going to Fort Buckmoth first to get a little bit more information and supplies.
Yes, Dunmer. I'm Raisa Pullia, champion of the Legion garrison here at Buckmoth Legion Fort, and you're them. Caius Cosades sent you, didn't he? Caius says you're the one to handle this 6th house base near Narmok. Only one trooper returned. He died soon after, horribly disfigured with corpus disease and out of his wits. In his ravings, he spoke of a cavern on the coast. He called it Ilunaby. It's not on our maps. Try asking locals in Narmok. They fought with cultists and disfigured man-beasts, corpus monsters, I think. They fled the attackers and got lost in the caves. Then they ran into a half-man creature named Dagoth Garrus. This Dagoth Garrus slew the rest of the patrol, but spared the one trooper. He told the trooper he was being spared, so he might tell others that the sleeper awakes, and the 6th house has risen, and Dagoth is Lord, and I am his priest, and all will be one with him in the flesh. The trooper awakened outside the caves and returned here. We couldn't recognize him, and he didn't respond to questions, just kept rambling on like a madman until he died. That's what the dead trooper called the sea caverns where he found the 6th house base. It's not on our maps, and no one here has heard of it. Maybe the locals in Narmok can tell you where to find it, or you may have to search for it yourself.
Narmok is here. And Ilunaby is here. So. And I believe this will require escalating the main quest. I'm going to have to do a few steps for it. Because. It was kind of jarring. It was part of the reasons why I took out some of the original mods that were in here that redo these areas. Back to really, really pretty flowers and grass that I love. Are you really gonna start something? Oh, look, overkill. Diseased muck leech. And since they said that, you heard her say there was... They left one civilian alive, one member of the Legion alive. The remakes always had, like, one alive, Legion soldier, which I suppose is an interesting canon thing, but they didn't change their scripting, so they just stood there in the middle of just like all this horror, and if you tried to talk to them, they would just say, move along, you know. Dude, get out of here. Like, you couldn't talk to them, you couldn't interact with them. They just behaved like, someone you'd meet in the middle of town. So it was jarring, and also the maps didn't work, so alas. It was very cool in terms that once you zone in, it looks very scary. And, Dagoth Garrus will start talking to you along the way. And I think they gave him, like, Emperor Palpatine's voice or something. It sounded like Palpatine. To me, anyway. Which made it interesting. But, yeah. I had to take it out. Because I'm already lost and confused enough. I really don't need the game rubbing it in. Why are the Gamora masters at running away? I really hate that sound effect. I mean, it's good. It's just so disturbing. Crying. Listen to the jaunty Morrowind music as I drag through horror. I think it's this model that makes that sound. Yeah, so upsetting. The lamp. Oh, I picked up the corpus groupings. Oh, everybody's gonna hate me. Put it down, put it down, put it down. Okay, I don't have any more corpus with me. That's just gross. You see the corpse. Dead adventurer. She goes to eat some food, and then the smell of the place makes her change her mind. She's gonna be fasting through this. She'll take the minor debuff because otherwise she feels as though she's going to throw everything up. You know, she knows that these people are dreamers in here, but she also knows that this disease, this sickness, is transmitted magically somehow through the ash statues and dreams, and she doesn't know exactly how it works, but she doesn't want them to touch her. She doesn't want it transmitted to her. She's not going to let these things charge her and get their hands on her, so as much as she's sorry, particularly when she just sees dark elves in underwear here, she's going to kill them. Preferably when they're very far away. As you see in many Vermai, and it's scary. So she's remembering when she first arrived in Sedanine, and the man at the Ariel at the trade house said that there were attacks on the road, not by Ashlanders, although other people were blaming it on Ashlanders, but just bandits with clubs. And that's these guys. Acting strangely. Sixth House greets you, Lord Nerevar, or Nandine as you call yourself. I am known as Dagoth Garrus, priest of Ilanibi Shrine and minister to Sixth House servants. My lord Dagoth has informed me of your coming. I wish that this time you had come to honor your lord's friendship, not to betray it. So all of these responses in the remake of the zones are spoken to you as you travel through. Dagoth is the awakened lord of the Sixth House, come to cast down false gods, drive foreigners from the land, and restore the ancient glory of Morrowind. He bids you come to Red Mountain. For the friendship and honor that once you shared, he would grant you counsel and power, if only you would pledge that friendship anew. The path to Red Mountain is long and filled with danger, but if you are worthy, you will find there wisdom, a firm friend, and all the power you need to set the world aright. Ilanibi Shrine is just a small, quiet retreat for Sixth House servants, a place to contemplate and grow strong and wise in Lord Dagoth's ways. Here we share the sacraments of flesh and blood. So, yes, sacraments of flesh and blood. So they're eating the corpus meat. And dream the dream of our Lord. This and other lesser shrines are hidden from prying eyes throughout the land. But the greatest shrine of Sixth House servants lie beneath Red Mountain, in the citadels of our Lord and his close kin. Lord's friendship. Lord Dagoth gives me these words to say to you, so you may give them thought. Once we were friends and brothers, Lord Nerevar, in peace and in war. Yet beneath Red Mountain you struck me down as I guarded the treasure you bound me by oath to defend. But remember our old friendship. I would forgive you, and raise you high in my service. My Lord Dagoth bids you come to Red Mountain. For the friendship and honor that once you shared, he would grant you counsel and power if only you would pledge that friendship anew. I am not your Lord Dagoth, yet I, too, would say to you, do you come with weapons to strike me down, or would you put away your weapon and join me in friendship? She's not letting this thing come any closer. Sixth House. The Sixth House was not dead, but only sleeping. Now it wakes from its long dream. And with our Lord Dagoth it comes forth to free Morrowind of foreign rulers and divine pretenders. When the land is swept clean of false friends and greedy thieves, the children of Eloth will build anew a garden of plenty in this blighted wasteland. Forgive the rude welcome, but until you've declared for us, we must treat you as our enemy. The sleepers and dreamers are newly come to Lord Dagoth and not yet blessed with his power, but the children of his flesh, they are deep in the heart of his mysteries. Their bodies swell to contain his glory and to yield the rich sacraments of our Lord's feasts. Yeah, the corpus meat. And we are the least of his servants, for ash poets, ascended sleepers, and ash vampires stand high above us in the Lord's bountiful grace. So, yeah, ash poet is mentioned in one of the books, and it's mentioned here, but I don't recall shooting one. Maybe I did. I don't know. our enemy. Lord Dagoth would far rather have you as a friend than as an enemy, but until you submit to him, Sixth House servants will treat you as an enemy and try to destroy you. If you wish to be our friend, first you must go to Lord Dagoth in his citadel in Red Mountain and make your submission. Yeah, I'm not doing that. She is very grateful he didn't get to touch her. But with his dying breath, Dagoth Garrus smiles and curses you. Even as my master wills, you shall come to him in his flesh and of his flesh. So, message from Dagoth Ur. Lord Nerevar Induril High Resdania, my lord, friend, and companion. Once we were friends and brothers, Lord Nerevar, in peace and in war. No houseman ever served you better or more faithfully. Much that I did was at your command, at great cost to myself and my honor. Yet beneath Red Mountain you struck me down as I guarded the treasure you bound me by oath to defend. It was a cruel blow, a bitter betrayal to be felled by your hand. But remembering our old friendship, I would forgive you and raise you high in my service. The Sixth House was not dead, but only sleeping. Now we wake from our long dream, coming forth to free Morrowind of foreign rulers and divine pretenders. When the land is swept clean of false friends and greedy thieves, the children of Veloth will build anew a garden of plenty in this blighted wasteland. Come to Red Mountain, old friend, for the fellowship and honor that once we shared. I would grant you counsel and power, if only you would pledge that friendship anew. The path to Red Mountain is long and filled with danger, but if you are worthy, you will find there wisdom, a firm friend, and all the power you need to set the world aright. As ever, your respectful servant and loyal friend, Lord Vorin Dagoth Ur. Okay, so I'm still truly not very clear on all the lore. So from my understanding and what I've read, okay, so there's good stuff here. Not that. Adamantium. And I believe the Fists of Randagulf should be over here. Yep. So, Fists of Randagulf fortify strength 20 points. Fortify agility 20 points. That is major. So, for the first time, we are going to wear heavy armor and replace our gloves. Fist of Randagulf left, fortify agility, and right, fortify strength. That will significantly boost. Oh, okay, so I've in that fight I've lost some. Well, if you look, you'll see it's because I have Corpus. My intelligence, willpower, personality, and speed will be drained while I have Corpus. So that's going to be an immediate thing that we really need to handle because, you know, that's a little scary. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. Pick up another 6th house bellhammer. So Dagoth Ur says that Nerevar betrayed him, and of course, we don't have Nerevar's viewpoint because they are dead. We have what the tribunal says, we have what Dagoth Ur says, but what we know about Dagoth Ur is they're crazy. I mean, this much crazy. So essentially, he was asked to guard the tools of Lorkhan. And Dagoth believes that they were faithful to that plan. But in fact, they were kind of like Gollum picking up the One Ring. It just immediately started corrupting him. That is my interpretation, because look at the results. This is not a sane person. So you have to imagine the crazy started immediately. So she looks at these ash statues. In the 6th house, she's not touching, but she's studying. And Yes, the Dagoth Garrus here confirms it. They're crazy. There is no garden. There's just diseased cannibalism. That's it. That's what they're doing. And she doesn't believe for a moment that she is Lord Nerevar. First off, she is an Ashlander, and she knows that no male dark elf would choose to be born as a female dark elf. Everything is he. She has been excluded from all things sacred, holy, and powerful. So she knows that despite what Azura says, despite what Dagoth says, she thinks they're both lying to her. But she still doesn't want to have corpus disease, so she's going to go check in and see what's next. I don't think I've missed anything, but let me just save here. Okay, we're gonna go speak to Caius.
Keep your distance, all right? Are you here to discuss your orders, or is there something else you want? You know how people have started going crazy in the streets, attacking people for no reason? I've heard they've been finding these statues nearby and in their houses. You have corpus disease. It's a rare disease that usually drives victims mad and causes terrible deformed growths on the body. I don't know much about it. I'll check my informants and see how to cure it. In the meantime, we can discuss your orders. With Dagoth Garrus dead, the 6th House Shrine is no longer a threat. You've more than earned a promotion to the rank of Traveler. I'm very worried that you have corpus disease, but I have some good news in that department. I canvassed my informants for possible treatments, just in case you contracted the disease during your mission. I learned from Fast Eddie that your best chance of getting cured is Devaith Fear, an ancient Telvanni wizard who runs a corpusarium for victims of the disease. Here, take this Dwemer artifact and 1,000 drakes and go to Telfir. Devaith Fear will like the Dwemer artifact. A gift may sweeten his disposition. The gold is for expenses. And here are a couple of levitation potions. I hear you'll need them in Telvanni Towers because wizards don't use stairs. So get moving and get that corpus disease cured. Then hurry back. I think I know how to get the lost prophecies Nibani Misa asked for. The temple sends victims of corpus disease to the corpusarium. The corpusarium is beneath Telfir, the tower of the Telvanni wizard Devaith Fear. I asked Fast Eddie what it was like. It's a swell place, full of doomed crazy people with bloated bodies. You'll love it. Fast Eddie says Devaith Fear collects Dwemer artifacts. Yes, I know it's treason to trade in Dwemer artifacts, but don't worry about it. I'm a big-shot Imperial spy master, remember? And yes, it's worth a fortune, but you're worth it. The cash is for expenses and just in case. Good luck. Ed Thiemann, also Fast Eddie, also Eddie the Rat, is a rare commodity, a former Telvanni wizard who has gone Imperial and joined the Mages Guild. A colorful but unreliable character, but he is an invaluable source of inside information on Great House Telvanni. He has a small house here in Balmora.
Obviously, I cannot gallivant about with Corpus. We're going to Telfir immediately. Yes, there will be no gallivanting until this is managed. So, Telfir. So we have been here twice. At least twice. Okay. I believe I've spoken to Devaith because we did something or other with him already. Right. Yeah, we talked to him about the disappearance of the dwarfs. So, we have had conversations, we are acquainted, and now we need to speak to him about the disease we just happened to catch.
3 blessings to you, Redoran.
Offer the
Say,
Dwemer
that's an
artifact as a
interesting Dwemer
gift.
piece you have there. What can you tell me
So,
about it?
you can actually pick up one of these pieces in the world. He gives you Caius gives you a Dwemer coherer. If you pick up a coherer and you come speak to Devaith, you get booted forward in the main quest. So there are mods that add in coherers. Just be careful to not be carrying one when you speak with Devaith. Even if you politely show him the piece then put it away, your quest is still permanently bugged.
A gift? For me? How thoughtful and shrewd. I suppose you know I'm a collector, and that such a gift is bound to please me. I congratulate you on your diplomatic skills. So, why have you tried to butter me up? Come to consult the great Devaith Fear? You have the divine disease, want to plunder the dungeon, or leer at my daughters? How interesting. Did you know that Corpus makes you immune to disease? Have you ever heard of the prophecies of the Nerevarine? Ashlanders say the Nerevarine will be immune to disease. I've always thought, maybe I have the Nerevarine down in my corpusarium and I don't even know it. Ha, ha. The Nerevarine is a fat, disgusting corpus monster and mad as a marsh rat. Wouldn't that be funny?
Explain that you may fulfill the Nerevarine prophecies.
That's a fascinating story you tell. So, you might be the Nerevarine. Means nothing, of course. Corpus victims have all sorts of delusions. But, let me think. I've got a potion. In theory, it should cure Corpus. Doesn't work, though. Probably kill you. Killed all my test subjects. But you've got nothing to lose. Before I give it to you, I want you to look around below in the Corpusarium. Know what's in store if you don't take the potion. And while you're there, I want you to pick up a pair of boots from a victim. Calls himself Yagrum Bagarn. My oldest patient. Handy fellow. Fixes things for me. Bring the boots back, and then you can have the potion.
It's just so weird, because it's your corpusarium. It's just crazy that something this important, and he's like, yeah, but boots. And one of that's the thing, once you get there, like, one of the clone daughters is already there. Like, you could have just asked. Ugh. Anyway. Corpusarium, also there are multiple, no. There are multiple mods to redo the Corpusarium. I took them all out because I want the Corpusarium to be simple. It's not as interesting to me as someone might think. Okay, there's nobody here. I should be able to. Devaith's 1008th key and a Dwemer coins. Rusty Dwemer cog. Okay. So this is just, I mean, this is all just ridiculous, but okay. She still can't bring herself to eat, especially knowing she's going to be among the corpus victims. She's not really.
Speak quickly. I am Vistakai, warden of the Corpusarium. I am here to warn you, do not harm the inmates. If you come to plunder the dungeon, you must endure their attacks and take your chances with me, their warden and protector. Do not harm the inmates. I will not tolerate you adding to their suffering. Indeed, they are brutal and ferocious, and they will kill you if they can. But you are their guest, and you may not harm them, or you will answer to me.
Okay. So I can mostly sneak through here. Okay. Using my nefarious deeds thing. If not, I can just sprint. The places that remade these dungeons to make them much harder than they were, I did not enjoy because the maps did not work. So, really in the vanilla game, all you really have to do is go this way. Yeah, they saw me, so I'm just gonna sprint. It's not like she's afraid she's gonna catch Corpus, but yeah, I had, with the remakes that make this place much scarier, it's not scary, it's just annoying to me. So once you're in here, people will stop. Look at those pretty gloves. Aren't those nice? Yes, they are. People will stop trying to attack. It's, this whole thing is ridiculous. I would like to say this, the lore is interesting, the execution of the lore is just ridiculous. Okay, so, yeah, here's one of his... Oops, Saphir is down here, so she surely could have just brought up a pair of boots.
And last living dwarf.
Okay, I don't want to steal a book right in front of someone or read it. So this is the nasty iteration.
Now, if I could just figure a scheme of classifying manifold for tri-ply connected surfaces, or even more
Yagrum Bagarn. You're here for the Dwemer boots. Tell my gracious keeper I've done what I could. Only a Dwemer mage crafter could have done so much. But only idiots could have created these boots. It shames my race that we must be judged by the works of such lack-wit blunderers. So, Lord Fear obtained these enchanted Dwemer boots from an unfortunate thief, and given the quality of their craftsmanship, little wonder the fellow came to a bad end, but I could do nothing for them. The fundamental enchantment is flawed. Might as well start over again if such a pair of boots could still be fashioned in these benighted latter days, but I've done my best. Take them to Lord Fear with my sincere apologies. So you ask him about the disappearance of the dwarves. Ah, I cannot say what happened. I was not here to observe. I was in the outer realms at the time, and when I came back, my people were gone. I left Red Mountain, wandering Tamriel for years, searching out deserted colonies, looking for a survivor or an explanation. Then a long, long time ago, I returned to Red Mountain, still looking for answers. Instead, I found Corpus disease, and I've been here ever since. I have theories, if you're interested. Lord Kagranak, the foremost arcane philosopher and magecrafter of my era, devised tools to shape mythopoeic forces, intending to transcend the limits of Dwemer mortality. However, in reviewing his formulae, some logicians argued that side effects were unpredictable and errors might be catastrophic. I think Kagranak might have succeeded in granting our race eternal life with unforeseen consequences, such as wholesale displacement to an outer realm. Or he may have erred and utterly destroyed our race. Gracious Keeper, I owe my life to Lord Fear. He took me in when I was a mad monster out of my mind. In time I emerged from my dementia, and now I am quite lucid most of the time, though my body is still a grotesque and useless prison, and I still have some feeble hope of a cure. Lord Fear has tried many spells and potions. None have helped me, but neither have they harmed me. If anyone can cure this disease, Lord Fear can. Once I was a master crafter in the service of Lord Kagranak, chief architect of the great Second Empire freeholds, and the greatest enchanter of all time. I could not match the genius of Lord Kagranak, but what he could envision, I and my colleagues could build. All of that is gone forever. I still retain my cunning, but my hands and eyes fail me, and my memories have long faded. My only consolation is each day to mock the gods who destroyed my race and condemned me to this bleak existence. Since the disappearance of the dwarves, I've been alone in this world, trapped in this grim prison. I can scarcely move, and my fellow inmates are scarcely good company. The risk of corpus disease deters most visitors, but if you meet with cultivated minds undaunted by the terrors of the corpusarium, you might mention your recent interview with the last living dwarf. This is how I style myself. I do not know for a fact that I'm the last, but in my travels thousands of years ago, I never encountered another. And since I have been here, I often ask Lord Fear, but he says he's never heard of a credible rumor of another Dwemer on Tamriel, or any outer realm. Okay. Thank you so much for making horrible noises through that whole thing. You know, you'd think the guy could, get some walls, some soundproofing, but yes, large corpusarium husk. So, yeah, he eats, there's an egg, but it's corpus meat next to him in a bowl. He eats this stuff. These guys produce it. It's really gross. It's really, really gross.
You're new here, aren't you? My name is Oopsie. Oopsafir. I take care of the corpus victims in the
Okay. Yeah, she says something about being able to calm them with a lute. Or I'm just out of here. Wait. Those sounds are way too loud, my friends. Okay. She still can't eat and is appalled at this place. She really, really despises Telvanni. She doesn't want her search for knowledge to turn her into this.
Yes, Outlander. Well, did you get my boots? No boots, no potion. The boots first, please. And now I'll give you the potion on the following condition. You must drink it here before my eyes. It should act immediately, and I need to observe you very carefully. Agreed?
Yes, give me the potion.
Good. Open your mouth and close your eyes. Good. Now swallow. Goodness. Good grief. Look, it's working. Remarkable. Let me check your skin, your eyes, your tongue. Amazing. I think it worked. No sign of the disease at all. Of course, you still have corpus disease, just like I planned, but all your symptoms are gone. Marvelous. I'll go try it out on some of the more desperate inmates, but I'll answer any questions you have before you go.
Yeah, I don't have any more questions.
A warm welcome to you.
That's just horrifying. Okay. So, she'll go back to Caius.
I'll be gone. Thank you for your report. I'm very happy you've been cured. Unfortunately, I've had a bit of bad news. I've been recalled to the Imperial City. You'll be promoted to operative and will head the blades here in Vardenfell until I return. I've only waited here to give you your final orders before I go. I don't know much about it. I've never seen a case myself. You can get it from contact with the Red Mountain monsters they call corpus beasts. I think it's like a blight disease, only worse. It usually drives victims mad and causes terrible, deformed growths on the body. I'll check my informants and find out how to cure it. In the meantime, just follow your orders. I don't know what else to do. There's nothing to it. Each agent has his own assignment and reports directly to Cyrodiil. You're promoted to operative, mostly to preserve your independence. You're no fool. The days of the Empire are almost over. When the Emperor dies, 9 hells are going to break loose. Forget about the Imperial City. Think locally. Worry about the 6th House and Dagoth-Ur, and squabbles between the Great Houses and the colonists. The rest of the political nonsense doesn't amount to a plate of scuttle. That makes you the ranking Blades agent here in Vardenfeld district, as far as I know. There may be other Blades agents here I don't know about. It wouldn't surprise me. I may be gone a while, and you'll have expenses. Here's some gold, and you can use the house until I return. And I won't be needing these blacks or the ring while I'm in Cyrodiil. Maybe they'll come in handy? Take good care of them. Internal politics. Some concern about my sugar. I thought about refusing the recall. But they have members of my family back in the capital. I'm afraid it may have something to do with the problems with the succession. As the Emperor's health declines, factions are maneuvering for advantage. I may be gone a while. That's why you're promoted to operative. Continue pursuing the Nerevarine prophecies, as the Emperor commands. First, go to the Hall of Wisdom and Justice, and get Mera Milo to help you find the lost prophecies. She's being watched. If something has gone wrong, find her private quarters. She'll leave you a message there under the code word Amaya. Then take the lost prophecies to Nibani Maisa. From that point, you'll have to follow her directions and follow the prophecies. Good luck.
Okay. She looks around this place and is certain, although she's kind of curious about that key still. But she doesn't think she wants anything in here. And she really did not develop as much rapport with Caius as she might have liked. She wishes him well. And she has concerns about his sugar, too. I mean, come on. You could at least pretend to be an addict and not actually be one. But she's sorry that the world clearly broke this man. And she's going home. She asks for blessings. Cure disease. Cure blight disease. The soul of Sokasil. Gets the stink of the sixth house and the corpusarium off of her. Checks again. She doesn't have to, she's cured. She's fulfilling the prophecy. She understands that, but she doesn't believe. She doesn't believe gods. She doesn't believe governments. She doesn't believe agents. She believes in tea. And she believes in mushrooms. And although books are written by the horrible people she's met, she still loves reading. She pauses a moment before reading to reflect. She's still wearing the Savior's hide. Which she took from Divaethfir at the beginning. She's still carrying a Daedric bow, which is from the Daedra. She's using the tools of the powerful. It's truly horrifying to her. But she's not giving them up, so she imagines she's no better. In fact, even just looking at them, she feels she has to repair them. Including Azura's star from another Daedric prince. The soul of a Dremora in it. She looks at all of her tools of survival. They are magical. Whatever magic is, it's entirely invested in her life now. It's not as though she wants to go back to being someone who simply tends the fire and has to make tea and food for other people. She still feels that wave of horrific sickness from Corpus. But she doesn't think she's in Reverine. She thinks she's the point of the spear, tip of the pyramid, where all the numbers that fell before her lifted her up. She doesn't have any faith in Nerevar or Azura or Devaith Fear or the Empire. But she still wants to cure this disease, and she still wants to help people.
It was a complete loss. The Cathay Rat had stolen or destroyed almost every item of value in the caravan in just a few minutes' time. Decimus Scotty's wagon-load of wood he had hoped to trade with the Bosmer had been set on fire and then toppled off the bluff. His clothing and contracts were tattered and ground into the mud of dirt mixed with spilt wine. All the pilgrims, merchants, and adventurers in the group moaned and wept as they gathered the remnants of their belongings by the rising sun of the dawn. I best not tell anyone that I managed to hold on to my notes for my translation of the Menoriad play bar, whispered the poet Griff Mallon. They'd probably turn on me. Scotty politely declined the opportunity of telling Mallon just how little value he himself placed on the man's property. Instead, he counted the coins in his purse. 34 gold pieces. Very little indeed for an entrepreneur beginning a new business. "Hoy!" came a cry from the wood. A small party of Bosmer emerged from the thicket, clad in leather mail and bearing arms. "Friend or foe?" "Neither," growled the convoy head. "You must be the Cyrodiils," laughed the leader of the group, a tall, skeleton-thin youth with a sharp, vulpine face. "We heard you were en route. Evidently so did our enemies." "I thought the war was over," muttered one of the caravan's now ruined merchants. The Bosmer laughed again. "No act of war, just a little border enterprise. You're going on to Falinesti?" "I'm not." The convoy head shook his head. "As far as I'm concerned, my duty is done. No more horses, no more caravan, just a fat profit loss to me." The men and women crowded around the man, protesting, threatening, begging, but he refused to step foot in Valenwood. If these were the new times of peace, he said, he'd rather come back for the next war. Scotty tried a different route and approached the Bosmer. He spoke with an authoritative but friendly voice, the kind he used in negotiations with peevish carpenters. "I don't suppose you'd consider escorting me to Falinesti. I'm a representative for an important imperial agency, the Atreus Building Commission, here to help repair and alleviate some of the problems the war with the Khajiit brought to your province. Patriotism. 20 gold pieces, and you must carry your own gear if you have any left," replied the Bosmer. Scotty reflected that negotiations with peevish carpenters rarely went his way either. 6 eager people had enough gold on them for payment. Among those without funds was the poet, who appealed to Scotty for assistance. "I'm sorry, Griff, I only have 14 gold left over. Not even enough for a decent room when I get to Falinesti. I really would help you if I could," said Scotty, persuading himself that it was true. The band of 6 and their Bosmer escorts began the descent down a rocky path along the bluff. Within an hour's time they were deep in the jungles of Valenwood. A never-ending canopy of hues of browns and greens obscured the sky. A millennia's worth of fallen leaves formed a deep, wormy sea of putrefaction beneath their feet. Several miles were crossed, wading through the slime. For several more they took a labyrinthian path across fallen branches and the low-hanging boughs of giant trees. All the while, hour after hour, the inexhaustible Bosmer host moved so fast the Cyrodiils struggled to keep from being left behind. A red-faced little merchant with short legs took a bad step on a rotten branch and nearly fell. His fellow provincials had to help him up. The Bosmer paused only a moment, their eyes continually darting to the shadows in the trees above, before moving on at their usual expeditious pace. "What are they so nervous about?" wheezed the merchant irritably. "More Cathay rot?" "Don't be ridiculous," laughed the Bosmer unconvincingly. "Khajiiti this far into Valenwood, in times of peace? They'd never dare." When the group passed high enough above the swamp that the smell was somewhat dissipated, Scotty felt a sudden pang of hunger. He was used to 4 meals a day in the Cyrodiilic custom. Hours of non-stop exertion without food was not part of his regimen as a comfortably paid clerk. He pondered, feeling somewhat delirious, how long they had been trotting through the jungle. 12 hours? 20? A week? Time was meaningless. Sunlight was only sporadic through the vegetative ceiling. Phosphorescent moulds on the trees and in the muck below provided the only regular illumination. "Is it at all possible for us to rest and eat?" he hollered to his host up ahead. "We're near to Falinesti," came the echoing reply. "Lots of food there." The path continued upward for several hours more across a clot of fallen logs, rising up to the first and then the second boughs of the tree line. As they rounded a long corner, the travellers found themselves midway up a waterfall that fell 100 feet or more. No one had the energy to complain as they began pulling up the stacks of rock, agonizing foot by foot. The Bosmer escorts disappeared into the mist, but Scotty kept climbing until there was no more rock left. He wiped the sweat and river water from his eyes. Falinesti spread across the horizon before him. Sprawling across both banks of the river stood the mighty Grot Oak city, with groves and orchards of lesser trees crowding it like supplicants before their king. At a lesser scale, the tree that formed the moving city would have been extraordinary, gnarled and twisted with a gorgeous crown of gold and green, dripping with vines and shining with sap. At a mile tall and half as wide, it was the most magnificent thing Scotty had ever seen. If he had not been a starving man with the soul of a clerk, he would have sung. "There you are," said the leader of the escorts. "Not too far a walk. You should be glad it's wintertide. In summertide, the city's on the far south end of the province." Scotty was lost as to how to proceed. The sight of the vertical metropolis where people moved about like ants disoriented all his sensibilities. "You wouldn't know of an inn called—" He paused for a moment, and then pulled Eurus's letter from his pocket. Something like Mother Pascost Tavern. Mother Pascost? The lead Bosmer laughed his familiar contemptuous laugh. "You won't want to stay there. Visitors always prefer the Asia Hall in the top boughs. It's expensive, but very nice. I'm meeting someone at Mother Pascost's Tavern. If you've made up your mind to go, take a lift to Havel's Slump and ask for directions there. Just don't get lost and fall asleep in the Western Cross." This apparently struck the youth's friends as a very witty jest, and so it was, with their laughter echoing behind him, that Scotty crossed the writhing root system to the base of Falinesti. The ground was littered with leaves and refuse, and from moment to moment a glass or a bone would plummet from far above, so he walked with his neck crooked to have warning. An intricate network of platforms anchored to thick vines slipped up and down the slick trunk of the city with perfect grace, manned by operators with arms as thick as an ox's belly. Scotty approaches the nearest fellow at one of the platforms, who was idly smoking from a glass pipe. "I was wondering if you might take me to Havel's Slump." The Mer nodded, and within a few minutes' time Scotty was 200 feet in the air at a crook between 2 mighty branches. Curled webs of moss stretched unevenly across the fork, forming a sharing roof for several dozen small buildings. There were only a few souls in the alley, but around the bend ahead he could hear the sound of music and people. Scotty tipped the Falinesti platform ferryman a gold piece and asked for the location of Mother Pascost's tavern. "Straight ahead of you, sir, but you won't find anyone there," the ferryman explained, pointing in the direction of the noise. "Maundas everyone in Havel Slump has revelry." Scotty walked carefully along the narrow street. Though the ground felt as solid as the marble avenues of the imperial city, there were slick cracks in the bark that exposed fatal drops into the river. He took a moment to sit down, to rest and get used to the view from the heights. It was a beautiful day for certain, but it took Scotty only a few minutes of contemplation to rise up in alarm. A jolly little raft anchored downstream below him had distinctly moved several inches while he watched it, but it hadn't moved at all. He had, together with everything around him. It was no metaphor. The city of Falinesti walked, and considering its size, it moved quickly. Scotty rose to his feet and into a cloud of smoke that drifted out from around the bend. It was the most delicious roast he had ever smelled. The clerk forgot his fear and ran. The revelry, as the ferryman had termed it, took place on an enormous platform tied to the tree, wide enough to be a plaza in any other city. A fantastic assortment of the most amazing people Scotty had ever seen were jammed shoulder to shoulder together, many eating, many more drinking, and some dancing to a lutist and singer perched on an offshoot above the crowd. They were largely Bosma, true natives clad in colourful leather and bones, with a close minority of orcs. Whirling through the throng, dancing and bellowing at one another, were a hideous ape people. A few heads bobbing over the tops of the crowd belonged not, as Scotty first assumed, to very tall people, but to a family of centaurs. "Care for some mutton?" queried a wizened old Mer, who roasted an enormous beast on some red-hot rocks. Scotty quickly paid him a gold piece and devoured the leg he was given, and then another gold piece and another leg. The fellow chuckled when Scotty began choking on a piece of gristle and handed him a mug of a frothing white drink. He drank it and felt a quiver run through his body as if he were being tickled. "What is that?" Scotty asked. "Jagger, fermented pig's milk. I can let you have a flagon of it and a bit more mutton for another gold." Scotty agreed, paid, gobbled down the meat, and took the flagon with him as he slipped into the crowd. His co-worker, Liodes Eurus, the man who had told him to come to Valenwood, was nowhere to be seen. When the flagon was a quarter empty, Scotty stopped looking for Eurus. When it was half empty, he was dancing with the group, oblivious to the broken planks and gaps in the fencework. At 3/4 empty, he was trading jokes with a group of creatures whose language was completely alien to him. By the time the flagon was completely drained, he was asleep, snoring, while the revelry continued on all around his supine body. The next morning, still asleep, Scotty had the sensation of someone kissing him. He made a face to return the favour, but a pain like fire spread through his chest and forced him to open his eyes. There was an insect the size of a large calf sitting on him, crushing him, its spiky legs holding him down, while a central spiral-bladed vortex of a mouth tore through his shirt. He screamed and thrashed, but the beast was too strong. It had found its meal, and it was going to finish it. "It's over," thought Scotty wildly. "I should have never left home. I could have stayed in the city and perhaps found work with Lord Vanek. I could have begun again as a junior clerk and worked my way back up." Suddenly the mouth released itself. The creature shivered once, expelled a burst of yellow bile, and died. "Got one!" cried a voice, not too distantly. For a moment Scotty lay still. His head throbbed and his chest burned. Out of the corner of his eye he saw movement. Another of the horrible monsters was scurried towards him. He scrambled, trying to push himself free, but before he could come out there was a sound of a bough cracking, and an arrow pierced the second insect. "Good shot!" cried another voice. "Get the first one again! I just saw it move a little." This time Scotty felt the impact of the bolt hit the carcass. He cried out, but he could hear how muffled his voice was by the beetle's body. Cautiously he tried sliding a foot out and rolling under, but the movement apparently had the effect of convincing the archers that the creature still lived. A volley of arrows was launched forth. Now the beast was sufficiently perforated so pools of its blood, and likely the blood of its victims, began to seep out onto Scotty's body. When Scotty was a lad, before he grew too sophisticated for such sports, he had often gone to the imperial arena for the competitions of war. He recalled a great veteran of the fights, when asked, telling him his secret, "Whenever I'm in doubt of what to do, and I have a shield, I stay behind it." Scotty followed that advice. After an hour, when he no longer heard arrows being fired, he threw aside the remains of the bug and leapt as quickly as he could to a stand. It was not a moment too soon. A gang of 8 archers had their bows pointing his direction, ready to fire. When they saw him, they laughed. "Didn't anyone ever tell you not to sleep in the Western Cross? How are we going to exterminate all the Horvers if you drunks keep feeding 'em?" Scotty shook his head and walked back along the platform, round the bend, to Harville's slump. He was bloodied and torn and tired, and he had far too much fermented pig's milk. All he wanted was a proper place to lie down. He stepped into Mother Pascost's tavern, a dank place, wet with sap, smelling of mildew. "My name is Decimus Scotty," he said. "I was hoping you have someone named Jurus staying here." "Decimus Scotty," pondered the fleshy proprietress, Mother Pascost herself. "I've heard that name. Oh, you must be the fellow he left the note for. Let me go see if I can find..." Mother Pascost disappeared into the sordid hole that was her tavern, and emerged a moment later with a scrap of paper with Leodis Jurus's familiar scrawl. Decimus Scotty held it up before a patch of sunlight that had found its way through the massive boughs of the tree city, and read, "Scotty, so you made it to Falinesti Valinwood. Congratulations. I'm sure you had quit your adventure getting here. Unfortunately, I'm not here any more, as you probably guess. There's a town downriver called Athi Imat. Get a boat and join me. It's ideal. I hope you brought a lot of contracts, because these people need a lot of building done. They were close to the war, you see, but not so close they don't have any money left to pay. Ha ha. Meet me down here as soon as you can. Jurus." So, Scotty pondered, Jurus had left Falinesti and gone to some place called Athi. Given his poor penmanship and ghastly spelling, it could equally well be Athi, Afi, Othri, Imthri, Urtha, or Krakamaka. The sensible thing to do, Scotty knew, was to call this adventure over and try to find some way to get back home to the imperial city. He was no mercenary devoted to a life of thrills. He was, or at least had been, a senior clerk at a successful private building commission. Over the last few weeks he had been robbed by the Cathay Rat, taken on a death march through the jungle by a gang of giggling Bosmiri, half-starved to death, drugged with fermented pig's milk, nearly slain by some kind of giant tick, and attacked by archers. He was filthy, exhausted, and had, he counted, 10 gold pieces to his name. Now the man whose proposal brought him to the depths of misery was not even there. It was both judicious and seemly to abandon the enterprise entirely, and yet a small but distinct voice in his head told him, "You have been chosen. You have no other choice but to see this through." Scotty turned to the stout old woman, Mother Pascost, who had been watching him curiously. "I was wondering if you knew of a village that was at the edge of the recent conflict with elsewhere. It's called something like Athi." "You must mean Athay," she grinned. "My middle lad, Viglil, he manages a dairy down there. Beautiful country, right on the river. Is that where your friend went?" "Yes," said Scotty. "Do you know the fastest way to get there?" After a short conversation, an even shorter ride to Falinesti's roots by way of the platforms, and a jog to the river bank, Scotty was negotiating transport with a huge fair-haired Bosmer with a face like a pickled carp. He called himself Captain Balfix, but even Scotty, with his sheltered life, could recognize him for what he was. A retired pirate for hire, a smuggler for certain, and probably much worse. His ship, which had clearly been stolen in the distant past, was a bent old imperial sloop. 50 gold, and we'll be in Athay in 2 days' time. boomed Captain Balfix expansively. "I have 9 gold pieces," replied Scotty, and feeling the need for explanation, added, "I had 10, but I gave one to the platform ferryman to get me down here." "9 is just as fine," said the captain agreeably. "Truth be told, I was going to Athe whether you paid me or not. Make yourself comfortable on the boat. We'll be leaving in just a few minutes." Decumus Scotty boarded the vessel, which sat low in the water of the river, stacked high with crates and sacks that spilled out of the hold and galley and onto the deck. Each was marked with stamps advertising the most innocuous substances: copper scraps, lard, ink, high rock meal, marked for cattle, tar, fish jelly. Scotty's imagination reeled, picturing what sorts of illicit imports were truly aboard. It took more than those few minutes for Captain Balfix to haul in the rest of his cargo, but in an hour the anchor was up, and they were sailing downriver towards Athe. The green-grey water barely rippled, only touched by the fingers of the breeze. Lush plant life crowded the banks, obscuring from sight all the animals that sang and roared at one another. Lulled by the serene surroundings, Scotty drifted to sleep. At night he awoke and gratefully accepted some clean clothes and food from Captain Balfix. "Why are you going to Athe, if I may ask?" queried the Bosmer. "I'm meeting a former colleague there. He asked me to come down from the Imperial City, where I worked for the Atreus Building Commission, to negotiate some contracts." Scotty took another bite of the dried sausages they were sharing for dinner. "We're going to try to repair and refurbish whatever bridges, roads, and other structures that got damaged in the recent war with the Khajiiti. It's been a hard 2 years." The captain nodded his head. "Though I suppose good for me and the likes of you and your friend. Trade routes cut off. Now they think there's going to be war with the Somerset Isles. You heard that?" Scotty shook his head. "I've done my share of smuggling skooma down the coast, even helping some revolutionary types escape the Maine's wrath. But now the wars have made me a legitimate trader, a businessman. The first casualties of war is always the corrupted." Scotty said he was sorry to hear that, and they lapsed into silence, watching the stars and moon's reflection on the still water. The next day, Scotty awoke to find the captain wrapped up in his sail, torpid from alcohol, singing in a low, slurred voice. When he saw Scotty rise, he offered his flagon of Jagger. "I learned my lesson during revelry at Western Cross." The captain laughed and then burst into tears. "I don't want to be legitimate. Other pirates I used to know are still raping and stealing and smuggling and selling nice folk like you into slavery. I swear to you, I never thought the first time that I ran a real shipment of legal goods that my life would turn out like this. Oh, I know, I could go back to it. But Bandar knows not after all I've seen. I'm a ruined man." Scotty helped the weeping Mer out of the sail, murmuring words of reassurance. Then he added, "Forgive me for changing the subject, but where are we?" "Oh," moaned Captain Balfix miserably, "we made good time. Athe's right around the bend in the river." "Then it looks like Athe's on fire," said Scotty, pointing. A great plume of smoke, black as pitch, was rising above the trees. As they drifted around the bend, they next saw the flames, and then the blackened skeletal remains of the village. Dying, blazing villagers leapt from rocks into the river. A cacophony of wailing met their ears, and they could see, roaming along the edges of the town, the figures of Khajiiti soldiers bearing torches. "Bandar bless me," slurred the captain. "The war's back on." "Oh, no," whimpered Scotty. The sloop drifted with the current toward the opposite shore, away from the fiery town. Scotty turned his attention there, and the sanctuary it offered. Just a peaceful arbor, away from the horror. There was a shudder of leaves in 2 of the trees, and a dozen lithe Khajiit dropped to the ground, armed with bows. "They see us," hissed Scotty, "and they've got bows." "Well, of course they have bows," snarled Captain Balfix. "We Bosmer may have invented the bloody things, but we didn't think to keep them secret, you bloody bureaucrat. Now they're setting their arrows on fire. Yes, they do that sometimes. Captain, they're shooting at us. They're shooting at us with flaming arrows." "Ah, so they are," the captain agreed. "The aim here is to avoid being hit." But hit they were, and very shortly thereafter. Even worse, the second volley of arrows hit the supply of pitch, which ignited in a tremendous blue blaze. Scotty grabbed Captain Balfix, and they leapt overboard just before the ship and all its cargo disintegrated. The shock of the cold water brought the Bosmer into temporary sobriety. He called to Scotty, who was already swimming as fast as he could toward the bend. "Master Decimus, where do you think you're swimming to?" "Back to Falinesti," cried Scotty. "It will take you days, and by the time you get there, everyone will know about the attack on Athe. They'll never let anyone they don't know in. The closest village downriver is Grenos. Maybe they'll give us shelter." Scotty swam back to the captain, and side by side they began paddling in the middle of the river, past the burning residuum of the village. He thanked Mara that he had learned to swim. Many a Cyrodiil did not, as largely landlocked as the imperial province was. Had he been raised in Mir Korup or Artemon, he might have been doomed, but the imperial city itself was encircled by water, and every lad and lass there knew how to cross without a boat, even those who grew up to be clerks and not adventurers. Captain Balfix's sobriety faded as he grew used to the water's temperature. Even in wintertide, the Xylo River was fairly temperate, and after a fashion, even comfortable. The Bosmer's strokes were uneven, and he'd stray closer to Scotty, and then further away, pushing ahead, and then falling behind. Scotty looked to the shore to his right. The flames had caught the trees like tinder. Behind them was an inferno with which they were barely keeping pace. To the shore on their left, all looked fair, until he saw a tremble in the river reeds, and then what caused it. A pride of the largest cats he had ever seen. They were auburn-haired, green-eyed beasts with jaws and teeth to match his wildest nightmares, and they were watching the two swimmers and keeping pace. "Captain Balfix, we can't go to either that shore or the other one, or we'll be parboiled or eaten," Scotty whispered. "Try to even your kicking and your strokes, breath like you would normally. If you're feeling tired, tell me, and we'll float on our backs for a while." Anyone who has had the experience of giving rational advice to a drunkard would understand the hopelessness. Scotty kept pace with the captain, slowing himself, quickening, drifting left and right, while the Bosmer moaned old ditties from his pirate days. When he wasn't watching his companion, he watched the cats on the shore. After a stretch, he turned to his right. Another village had caught fire. Undoubtedly, it was Grenos. Scotty stared at the blazing fury, awed by the sight of the destruction, and did not hear that the captain had ceased to sing. When he turned back, Captain Balfix was gone. Scotty dove into the murky depths of the river over and over again. There was nothing to be done. When he surfaced after his final search, he saw that the giant cats had moved on, perhaps assuming that he too had drowned. He continued his lonely swim downriver. A tributary, he noted, had formed a final barrier, keeping the flames from spreading further. But there were no more towns. After several hours, he began to ponder the wisdom of going ashore. Which shore was the question. He was spared the decision. Ahead of him was a rocky island with a bonfire. He did not know if he were intruding on a party of Bosmeri or Khajiiti, only that he could swim no more. With straining, aching muscles, he pulled himself onto the rocks. They were Bosmer refugees, he gathered, even before they told him. Roasting over the fire was the remains of one of the giant cats that had been stalking him through the jungle on the opposite shore. "Sencha tiger," said one of the young warriors ravenously. "It's no animal. It's as smart as any Cathay rat or Ohms or any other bleeding Khajiiti. Pity this one drowned. I would have gladly killed it. You'll like the meat, though. Sweet, from all the sugar these asses eat." Scotty did not know if he was capable of eating a creature as intelligent as a man or Mer, but he surprised himself, as he had done several times over the last days. It was rich, succulent, and sweet, like sugared pork, but no seasonings had been added. He surveyed the crowd as he ate. A sad lot, some still weeping for lost family members. They were the survivors of both the villages of Grenos and Athe, and war was on every person's lips. Why had the Khajiiti attacked again? Why, specifically directed at Scotty as a Cyrodiil? Why was the Emperor not enforcing peace in his provinces? I was to meet another Cyrodiil, he said to a Bosmer maiden who he understood to be from Athe. His name was Leodis Jurus. I don't suppose you know what might have happened to him. I don't know your friend, but there were many Cyrodiils in Athe when the fire came, said the girl. Some of them, I think, left quickly. They were going to Vindisi, inland, in the jungle. I am going there tomorrow, so are many of us. If you wish, you may come as well. Decumus Scotti nodded solemnly. He made himself as comfortable as he could in the stony ground of the river island, and somehow, after much effort, he fell asleep. But he did not sleep well. 18 Bosmeri and 1 Cyrodiilic former senior clerk for an imperial building commission trudged through the jungle westward from the Xylo River to the ancient village of Vindisi. For Decumus Scotti, the jungle was hostile, unfamiliar ground. The enormous vermiculated trees filled the bright morning with darkness, and resembled nothing so much as grasping claws bent on impeding their progress. Even the fronds of the low plants quivered with malevolent energy. What was worse, he was not alone in his anxiety. His fellow travellers, the natives who had survived the Khajiit attacks on the villages of Grenos and Athe, wore faces of undisguised fear. There was something sentient in the jungle, and not merely the mad, but benevolent indigenous spirits. In his peripheral vision, Scotti could see the shadows of the Khajiiti following the refugees, leaping from tree to tree. When he turned to face them, the lithe forms vanished into the gloom as if they had never been there. But he knew he had seen them, and the Bosmeri saw them too, and quickened their pace. After 18 hours, bitten raw by insects, scratched by 1,000 thorns, they emerged into a valley clearing. It was night, but a row of blazing torches greeted them, illuminating the leather-wrought tents and jumbled stones of the hamlet of Vindisi. At the end of the valley, the torches marked a sacred site, a gnarled bower of trees pressed close together to form a temple. Wordlessly, the Bosmeri walked the torch arcade toward the trees. Scotti followed them. When they reached the solid mass of living wood with only one gaping portal, Scotti could see a dim blue light glowing within. A low, sonorous moan from 100 voices echoed within. The Bosmeri maiden he had been following held out her hand, stopping him. "You do not understand, but no outsider, not even a friend, may enter," she said. "This is a holy place." Scotti nodded and watched the refugees march into the temple, heads bowed. Their voices joined with the ones within. When the last wood elf had gone inside, Scotti turned his attention back to the village. There must be food to be had somewhere. A tendril of smoke and a faint whiff of roasting venison beyond the torchlight led him. They were 5 Cyrodiils, 2 Bretons, and a Nord. The group gathered around a campfire of glowing white stones, pulling steaming strips of meat from the cadaver of a great stag. At Scotti's approach they rose up, all but the Nord, who was distracted by his hunk of animal flesh. "Good evening. Sorry to interrupt, but I was wondering if I might have a little something to eat. I'm afraid I'm rather hungry after walking all day with some refugees from Grenos and Athe." They bade him to sit down and eat, and introduced themselves. "So the war's back on, it seems," said Scotti amiably. "Best thing for these effete do-nothings," replied the Nord in between bites. "I've never seen such a lazy culture. Now they've got the Khajiiti striking them on land, and the high elves at sea. If there's any province that deserves a little distress, it's damnable Valenwood." "I don't see how they're so offensive to you," laughed one of the Bretons. "They're congenital thieves, even worse than the Khajiiti, because they are so blessed meek in their aggression." The Nord spat out a gob of fat, which sizzled on the hot stones of the fire. "They spread their forests into territory that doesn't belong to them, slowly infiltrating their neighbours, and they're puzzled when elsewhere shoves back at them. They're all villains of the worst order." "What are you doing here?" asked Scotti. "I'm a diplomat from the court of Gehenna," muttered the Nord, returning to his food. "What about you? What are you doing here?" asked one of the Cyrodiils. "I work for Lord Atreus's building commission in the imperial city," said Scotti. "One of my former colleagues suggested that I come down to Valenwood. He said the war was over, and I could contract a great deal of business for my firm rebuilding what was lost. One disaster after another, and I've lost all my money. I'm in the middle of a rekindling of war, and I cannot find my former colleague." "Your former colleague," murmured another of the Cyrodiils, who had introduced himself as Reglius. "He wasn't by any chance named Leodes Jurus, was he? You know him?" "He lured me down to Valenwood in nearly the exact same circumstances," smiled Reglius grimly. "I worked for your employer's competitor, Lord Vannick's men, where Leodes Jurus also formerly worked. He wrote to me, asking that I represent an imperial building commission and contract some post-war construction. I had just been released from my employment, and I thought that if I brought some new business, I could have my job back. Jurus and I met in Athe, and he said he was going to arrange a very lucrative meeting with the Sylvanar." Scotty was stunned. "Where is he now?" "I'm no theologian, so I couldn't say." Reglius shrugged. "He's dead. When the Khajiiti attacked Athe, they began by torching the harbour where Jurus was readying his boat. Or, I should say, my boat, since it was purchased with the gold I brought. By the time we were even aware of what was happening enough to flee, everything by the water was ash. The Khajiiti may be animals, but they know how to arrange an attack." "I think they followed us through the jungle to Vindisi," said Scotty nervously. "There was definitely a group of something jumping along the treetops." "Probably one of the monkey folk," snorted the Nord. "Nothing to be concerned about." "When we first came to Vindisi and the Bosmeri all entered that tree, they were furious, whispering something about unleashing an ancient terror on their enemies." The Breton shivered, remembering. "They've been there ever since, for over a day and a half now. If you want something to be afraid of, that's the direction to look." The other Breton, who was a representative of the Daggerfall Mages Guild, was staring off into the darkness while his fellow provincial spoke. "Maybe. But there's something in the jungle, too, right on the edge of the village looking in." "More refugees, maybe?" asked Scotty, trying to keep the alarm out his voice. "Not unless they're travelling through the trees now," whispered the wizard. The Nord and one of the Cyrodiils grabbed a long tarp of wet leather and pulled it across the fire, instantly extinguishing it without so much as a sizzle. Now Scotty could see the intruders, their elliptical yellow eyes and long, cruel blades catching the torchlight. He froze with fear, praying that he too was not so visible to them. He felt something bump against his back and gasped. Reglius's voice hissed from up above, "Be quiet for Mara's sake and climb up here." Scotty grabbed hold of the knotted double vine that hung down from a tall tree at the edge of the dead campfire. He scrambled up it as quickly as he could, holding his breath lest any grunt of exertion escape him. At the top of the vine, high above the village, was an abandoned nest from some great bird in a trident-shaped branch. As soon as Scotty had pulled himself into the soft, fragrant straw, Reglius pulled up the vine. No one else was there, and when Scotty looked down, he could see no one below. No one, that is, except the Khajiiti, slowly moving toward the glow of the temple tree. "Thank you," whispered Scotty, deeply touched that a competitor had helped him. He turned away from the village and saw that the tree's upper branches brushed against the mossy rock walls that surrounded the valley below. "How are you at climbing?" "You're mad," said Reglius under his breath. "We should stay here until they leave. If they burn Vindisi like they did Athe and Grenos, we'll be dead sure as if we were on the ground." Scotty began the slow, careful climb up the tree, testing each branch. "Can you see what they're doing?" "I can't really tell." Reglius stared down into the gloom. "They're at the front of the temple. I think they also have... It looks like long ropes, trailing off behind them, off into the pass." Scotty crawled onto the strongest branch that pointed toward the wet, rocky face of the cliff. It was not a far jump at all, so close, in fact, that he could smell the moisture and feel the coolness of the stone. But it was a jump, nevertheless, and in his history as a clerk he had never before leapt from a tree 100 feet off the ground to a sheer rock. He pictured in his mind's eye the shadows that had pursued him through the jungle from the heights above. how their legs coiled to spring, how their arms snapped forward in an elegant fluid motion to grasp. He leapt. His hands grappled for rock, but long, thick cords of moss were more accessible. He held hard, but when he tried to plant his feet forward, they slipped up skyward. For a few seconds he found himself upside down before he managed to pull himself into a more conventional position. There was a narrow outcropping jutting out of the cliff where he could stand and finally exhale. Reglius, Reglius, Reglius. Scotty did not dare to call out. In a minute there was a shaking of branches, and Lord Vannick's man emerged. First his satchel, then his head, then the rest of him. Scotty started to whisper something, but Reglius shook his head violently and pointed downward. One of the Khajiiti was at the base of the tree, peering at the remains of the campfire. Reglius awkwardly tried to balance himself on the branch, but as strong as it was exceedingly difficult with only one free hand. Scotty cupped his palms and then pointed at the satchel. It seemed to pain Reglius to let it out of his grasp, but he relented and tossed it to Scotty. There was a small, almost invisible hole in the bag, and when Scotty caught it, a single gold coin dropped out. It rang as it bounced against the rock wall on the descent, a high, soft sound that seemed like the loudest alarm Scotty had ever heard. Then many things happened very quickly. The Cathay Rat at the base of the tree looked up and gave a loud wail. The other Khajiiti followed in chorus as the cat below crouched down and then sprung up into the lower branches. Reglius saw it below him, climbing up with impossible dexterity, and panicked. Even before he jumped, Scotty could tell that he was going to fall. With a cry, Reglius the clerk plunged to the ground, breaking his neck on impact. A flash of white fire erupted from every crevice of the temple, and the moan of the Bosmeri prayer changed into something terrible and otherworldly. The climbing Cathay Rat stopped and stared. "Kirgo!" it gasped. "The wild hunt!" It was as if a crack in reality had opened wide. A flood of horrific beasts, tentacled toads, insects of armor and spine, gelatinous serpents, vaporous beings with the face of gods, all poured forth from the great hollow tree, blind with fury. They tore the Khajiiti in front of the temple to pieces. All the other cats fled for the jungle, but as they did so, they began pulling on the ropes they carried. In a few seconds' time, the entire village of Vindisi was boiling with the lunatic apparitions of the wild hunt. Over the babbling, barking, howling horde, Scotty heard the Cyrodiils in hiding cry out as they were devoured. The Nord, too, was found and eaten, and both Bretons. The wizard had turned himself invisible, but the swarm did not rely on their sight. The tree the Cathay Rat was in began to sway and rock from the impossible violence beneath it. Scotty looked at the Khajiiti's fear-struck eyes and held out one of the cords of moss. The cat's face showed its pitiful gratitude as it leapt for the vine. It didn't have time to entirely replace that expression when Scotty pulled back the cord and watched it fall. The hunt consumed it to the bone before it struck the ground. Scotty's own jump up to the next outcropping of rock was immeasurably more successful. From there he pulled himself to the top of the cliff and was able to look down into the chaos that had been the village of Vindisi. The hunt's mass had grown and began to spill out through the pass out of the valley, pursuing the fleeing Khajiiti. It was then that the madness truly began. In the moon's light, from Scotty's vantage, he could see where the Khajiiti had attached their ropes. With a thunderous boom, an avalanche of boulders poured over the pass. When the dust cleared, he saw that the valley had been sealed. The wild hunt had nowhere to turn but on itself. Scotty turned his head, unable to bear to look at the cannibalistic orgy. The night jungle stood before him, a web of wood. He slung Reglius's satchel over his shoulder and then
She had a difficult night. The book didn't really give her nightmares. It's kind of ridiculous, and it's nice to see someone behaving less intelligently than she even does on her adventures. She knows it's fiction, and again, it reiterates that good stories can be ridiculous. It is a good story, though. She's grateful for books. The rest really scares her. But whether or not she's the Nerevarine, and she does not believe that she is, simply because of her gender, she has to do something about it.